Howdy, 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 my name's Anashi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read the paired brass guard cat's frostbug snake necklace, misplaced blood, and communicative beaker. None of which were as terrifying as they could have been, but the guard cats were definitely messed up. So in this one we're going to be starting with the physical law testing chamber. We're going to be making our way up through the Tenon bombs. In there's also shadow spiders, so there's also animals in this episode as well. Now then, physical law testing chamber. It's safe. It also looks like a Lego of some kind. SCP-536 is to be maintained according to standard Foundation procedures. It is not to be plugged into its power source except during authorized testing. Any personnel who wish to engage in research involving 536 must submit an official request form to Dr. Blank, under whose supervision all tests are to be conducted. Gravimetric, electromagnetic, and radiological sensors are to be placed on 536's surface at 1 meter intervals. In the case of abnormal readings on any of these sensors, 536 is to be deactivated immediately and removed from its power source. Personnel are encouraged to repeatedly check calculations before activating 536. Description: SCP-536 is a blank by blank by blank meter chamber with a 50 cm square viewing window, 6 tunable dials with corresponding meters, and an electromagnetically sealed entryway. The entryway cannot be sealed or opened from the inside, and the dials will not respond unless the entryway is closed and sealed. The viewing window is opaque to electrons, nuclear particles redacted, and photons of energies above 1, whatever the hell that means. Each of 536's dials alter the value of one of the fundamental physical constants within the chamber. The dials control, respectively, the speed of light, c, the gravitational constant, capital G, Planck's constant, lowercase h, the fundamental charge, e, and two other constants represented by the Greek letters lambda and theta. Memo: after testing, Foundation researchers have concluded that these two constants represent the coupling constants for the weak and strong interactions, respectively. See testing logs 536 blank and blank. Well, I guess we're not going to see those because they're blank. Or maybe we will, because there's some testing logs down here. All constants are measured on their respective dials in modern SI units, with the exception of the dimensionless lambda and theta. Except for the viewing window, 536 is totally opaque to electromagnetic radiation and subatomic particles. No abnormal physical behavior has yet been observed outside the chamber during testing. Recovery log: SCP-536 was recovered from the University of Blank Physics Department, where it was installed in the research laboratories of Professor Blank. After his identification as an SCP object, several agents were dispatched with a squad of Level 3 security personnel. Prior to recovery, Professor Blank was either warned of Foundation actions or was able to recognize Foundation agents. He used a device Agent Blank described as a redacted, the Professor data expunged. He died in the resulting explosion. All references or records referring to 536 have been destroyed before the arrival of any Foundation personnel. Detailed analysis of Professor Blank's personal effects has revealed probable association with several anti-Foundation groups, including data expunged. As yet, it is unknown whether 536 was manufactured by any of these groups or if it has extraterrestrial, supernatural, or extratemporal origins. So, testing logs. Testing log 536 blank. Doctors Blank and Blank enter the testing room. Dr. Blank enters into 536. The entryway is closed and sealed. Dr. Blank instructs Dr. Blank to lower the gravitational constant by a factor of 1/2. He complies. He spends a little bit of time jumping around the interior of 536 under reduced gravity. He is instructed to return it to original levels. He instructs the doctor to reduce the speed of light to approximately 100 meters per second. He complies. As the speed of light begins to decrease, he shrinks by approximately 10 inches. He abruptly returns the speed of light to its original value. He returns to his original size. Memo: the Bohr radius is a quantity that determines the size of an electron's orbit around an atomic nucleus. It is inversely variable with both the speed of light and the change of the electron. The Dr. Blank reminds Dr. Blank to account for the decrease in the Bohr radius by decreasing the fundamental charge unit by a corresponding factor. He makes the necessary calculations and complies. He begins speaking in an abnormally slow voice, saying that he feels odd. This reduction of the speed of light would result in a slowing down of the electrochemical processes in the brain. This would likely result in an abnormal brain activity and quite probably impaired judgment. Dr. Blank instructs Dr. Blank to reduce the speed of light to as low as the dial goes. After brief hesitation, the doctor complies. The speed of light within the chamber drops below blank meters per second. Dr. Blank suddenly screams violently. The scream slowly drops in register until it becomes inaudible. The video camera positioned at the viewing window records Dr. Blank's body becoming contorted and slowly collapsing into a black hole. Under supervision of Dr. Blank, the speed of light is slowly raised back to its normal value. Radiation levels given off by the black hole are consistent with presently theorized levels of Hawking radiation. All ionizing protons are absorbed by the chamber walls. Dr. Blank is removed from active duty and directed to Foundation Psychological Studies for grief counseling. What did he think was going to happen? Why did they use a doctor for that? They have like whole buildings of disposable dudes that they could have done that with. Why did they use a doctor for it? That guy is stupid. Testing log blank. Subject is... There you go! Disposable dude is placed inside with a baseball, a meter stick, and a clock. Dr. Blank instructs the on-site technician to steadily lower the speed of light by 1 order of magnitude every 2 minutes. From 323 to 334, nothing is observed. At 334:34, his speech becomes noticeably slowed. He begins giggling. At 335, he is instructed to throw the baseball at the opposite wall. He reports intense pain in hand after the throw. Refuses to throw the meter stick or clock. Subsequent analysis of video indicates both Lorentz contraction and redshift of light on the baseball and on the subject's hand. At 337, the subject reports feelings of lightheadedness and falls over. At 337:31, the speed of light returned to normal. 536 was opened. He was found dead from a stroke. Memo: it is likely that the subject's stroke was a result of a combination of mass increase and Lorentz contraction of the blood reaching her brain. Arterial blood was being pushed through the body at close to speed of light, and the physical effects of that are probably very unhealthy, even in cases that don't cause immediate death. Okay, so they had the lady, she had a stroke. Okay, first, the speech became noticeably slowed, and then she started giggling when they lowered the speed of light. Okay, so if they lowered it by 1 order of magnitude every 2 minutes, then from 323 to 334, they would have lowered it like 10, 15 times? And then they lowered it again, and speech becomes slow and they begin giggling. I don't know why they would begin giggling, but something happened to their hand from throwing the baseball, and then they had a stroke and died because their blood was moving through their heart at almost the speed of light. Yeah. Testing log blank. Subject, disposable person 22413 placed in the 536. Lambda dial decreased by an order of magnitude. No observable effects. Lambda dial continuously decreased at a rate of 1 order of magnitude every 2 minutes. Nothing happens. Lambda returned to normal levels. Lambda increased by 1 order of magnitude every minute. They report feeling nauseous, and then they vomit. Maximum setting for Lambda reached. Subject is alive and conscious. Lambda lowered to original levels. They are removed from the SCP-536. They display signs of acute radiation poisoning, although not unusually high levels of radioactivity are recorded outside the chamber. Later analysis of their body reveals approximately 0 carbon-14. The amount of radiation damage to the subject's cells is consistent with the expected damage if all carbon-14 in a human body simultaneously decayed. Memo: the connection of Lambda to radioactive decay and the dimensionless nature of the constant leads me to believe that it is the coupling constant for the weak interaction. I think it is likely that the remaining unknown is the corresponding constant for the strong interaction, Dr. Blank. Testing log blank. Disposable person 6263 placed in 536. Theta dial increased continuously by an order of magnitude every 2 minutes, no observable effects. Dial returned to normal. Decreased by an order of magnitude. Decreased by a single order of magnitude, they violently disintegrate. Theta dial returned to normal value. The teams in hazardous environment suits open the chamber door. Hydrogen gas and high levels of neutron radiation are detected. Memo: in spite of the freedom afforded by being able to freely manipulate the laws of physics, it is important to recognize the many ways in which manipulation of these laws are deadly to human life, or nuclear matter in general. If you like having a body made out of atoms, I recommend the strongest caution in dealing with 536. Dr. Blank. I can only assume that the reason it's safe is because it doesn't do anything if you don't touch it. Next up, the singing gramophone, as gramophones are wont to do. It's safe. 537 is to be kept in a soundproof room. No additional containment measures are required, although 537 has requested 1 poster of the Muppets movie, granted. Weekly dusting and cleaning of its record, granted. Daily 1-hour visits from Foundation personnel, denied. Weekly 1 hour to converse with Foundation personnel sent to clean its record following cleaning, under consideration. A final record of the soundtrack from the Muppet movie, denied. It can play the entire soundtrack without need of the actual record. Description: recovered from a pawn shop to which it had reportedly been brought by a young man in February of 1980-something. It bears the appearance of a completely normal, albeit tattered, gramophone with no visible deviations or abnormalities. The vinyl record, SCP-537-2, beneath its needle has only one circular groove that does not move inward, so that the needle never reaches the center of the turntable. The needle is abnormally difficult to lift, but can be lifted by hand with some effort. The needle will snap back down the moment it is released. 537 is without a doubt intelligent and demonstrates the ability to both see and hear. It is not yet known how. It communicates by playing songs. That right there? That paragraph? Right there? This thing should be Euclid. Just saying. Because if it's definitely intelligent and they have no idea how, that is Euclid. Anyway, but they're probably rating it as safe because it's a record player that can't move. So it's safe in that it's a record player that can't move, but it's Euclid in that it's intelligent and they don't know why. 537 is able to play any song that can be found on an existing vinyl record and can do so at will. It plays songs all the way through and will never interrupt a song unless its needle is forced up, in which case it will resume the song from the point it left off at the next time it's able to play music. Forcing 537 to interrupt a song is discouraged, as doing so seems to cause it to become irritated and respond petulantly to testing for up to several days. It can raise and lower the needle on its own. It can answer yes or no questions quickly by raising and lowering the needle once for yes and twice for no. It moves its needle in a similar fashion to express numbers, usually referred to as other SCPs, or to refer to other SCPs. Attempts to teach 537 Morse code as a way of accelerated communication have failed, owing to its inability to read or spell. It does not matter what record is on the turntable, as it can play whichever song it pleases regardless. It does, however, prefer to have 537-2, as it seems unable to reset its needle alone and will eventually be unable to continue playing. 2, when played back on a normal turntable, is blank. 537 appears to enjoy interacting with humans and thoroughly enjoys being interviewed. Its personality is often described as pompous and flamboyant, usually greeting people with "Willkommen" from the musical Cabaret, yet distinctly childish. It is prone to tantrums when offended, which usually consists of it playing angry music at maximum volume non-stop until brought back to containment. It seems more trusting of younger employees and treats older people with cautious disrespect. When asked about his favorite song, 537 invariably responds by playing the Rainbow Connection from the Muppet movie. Document 537-1, Test for Special Properties in 2, performed by Dr. Blank. 2 was played in a regular turntable. The record is apparently blank. A vinyl record consisting of one perfectly circular groove along which the needle will travel was made for the purpose of this experiment. When given to 537 to play, though the replica record was identical, 537 apparently realized it had been not given 2 and reacted angrily, raising its needle and refusing to lower it until given its own record back. 537 continues to refuse to communicate with Dr. Blank. Document 2, Experiment 537-43-1. SCP-43 and a second functioning turntable were introduced to 537, overseen by Agent Blank. Transcript follows. SCP-43 plays to track 9. Heavy breathing is heard. He's here now. 537, say hello. Plays Willkommen from Cabaret. During song, hello? What's that sound? 537 makes a scratching sound but continues playing Willkommen. During song, this is the record player you told me about? Is there a way to shut it up? During song, 537 can't play another song until it finishes the one it's playing. How annoying. Song ends. Right then, that was lovely. I'm just supposed to converse with you, so how are you, I suppose? It begins playing Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows by Leslie Gore. Oh, wonderful. Right, let's talk about me then. Is there something you want to know about me? Raises and lowers its needle, denoting an affirmative answer. And what would you like to know? Begins playing Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. During song, why are you playing that song? What do you think Raises its volume. Inaudible underneath music. Song ends, immediately begins playing the same song again. Stop it! Stop it! Raises volume. 433 shouted their song to expunged. 43 is removed from the room as per its own request. 43, unsurprisingly, was not willing to discuss its reaction to 537, simply referring to it as that cheeky thing, and mentioning that it's the type that needs to learn to be careful if it doesn't want data expunged. Experiment 2. 43 was placed after reluctantly agreeing to do so under 537's needle. When asked how it was feeling, 537 played the first 8 tracks of the White Album by the Beatles. It should be noted that it is unusual for 537 to play a song on the record it is turning, let alone several songs in the proper order. After the 8th track, rather than recording the record stopping or Revolution 9 playing, the record began to skip. A loud noise described as somewhere between a record scratch and a shriek was heard and did not stop until the needle was forced up. 43 refused to speak of the incident, saying only that it never wanted to be near 537 again. 537 reacted similarly. When asked of its opinion of 43, it responded by playing George Carlin's routine 7 words you can never say on television. Addendum A. Since Experiment 43-2, 537 has flatly and consistently refused to play any song by the Beatles, responding each time by raising and lowering its needle twice. When asked multiple times to do so, 537 reacts angrily. Dr. Blank. Addendum 2. Addendum B. Speculation as to whether or not 537 is capable of playing songs from vinyls released after its construction, the date of which is unknown, has been settled as of a recent interview, which it ended by playing Carrying Is Creepy from O Inverted World by the Shins, an album released on vinyl in June of 2004. This is interpreted as 537's way of expressing its apathy towards the interview. Okay. I should probably let me open that back and actually go double check what 43 actually is. It sounds like it's that one Beatles record that becomes something else when you hit track 9. Yeah. Instead of playing Revolution 9, it stops spitting and faint breathing can be heard. Occasionally the entity responsible for the breathing will speak in a male voice, will respond to questions, and shows a profound encyclopedic knowledge of the music industry, musical theory, and obscure trivia about many bands and artists. However, it refuses to answer questions regarding the Beatles or its own personal details. Okay, so it's that record. And apparently, playing it on 537 causes intense pain for both of them. Now it's time for Shadow Spiders, which are Euclid. All instances of 538 are to be contained within a flesh white 15 by 15 by 3 meter room with no fewer than 4 overhead 200 watt lights. These lights are to be centered on above a 1 by 2 by 0.5 meter block table stationed in the center of the containment area and shining at all times. One disposable due to the chemically induced coma is to be kept medically stable upon the table and will serve as the feed source for all specimens of 538. Yeah. No source of shade should be present in the room other than that provided by the Class D. If at any point a light in 538's containment area burns out, a crew of 2 security personnel are to be sent in through an adjacent airlock. Personnel to be equipped with sealed hazardous material suits complete with independent oxygen tanks, and advised to move slowly and deliberately in order to avoid agitating 538. They are to replace the burnt out bulb and upon completion of their task are to return to the airlock. Once personnel are isolated within airlock, they are to be flushed with 300 watt white light in order to assure no instances of 538 are clinging to their person. Used to say, examinations of Class D personnel providing sustenance for 538 are to be done in a similar manner. However, only 1 doctor is required for examinations. Now it says, see Addendum A. If at any time all 4 lights are to go out simultaneously, the chamber is to be sealed along with all observation ports. Until means of relighting 538's chamber are available, the containment area is to remain in lockdown. If at any time personnel are bitten by 538, the infected individual must be placed within the chamber as soon as possible. Failure to do so could result in massive breach of containment and will result in termination of responsible individual. Note: security personnel are to be periodically screened for unusual phobias. Any personnel found to exhibit any degree of arachnophobia is to be reassigned. Description: 538 appears to be animate shadows of an unknown species of spiders. 538 appears to feed off the shadows of other living objects and will move to the nearest shadow cast by a living organism. To feed, it does no more than attach itself to the shadow of its host in such a manner that its own shadow is not obscured. Through this manner, a single specimen of 538 can grow up to approximately 15 square centimeters in size. Feeding after this point appears to simply maintain this size. The whole process has so far proven to be harmless to the host. While a specimen can attach itself to an inanimate object to feed, it will slowly atrophy and decrease in size over time. Only when connected to the shadow of a living organism can 538 thrive. It has shown itself capable of going short distances through open, well-lit areas, such as to reach a nearby host or to escape a source of agitation. However, it will rapidly decrease in size at a rate of nearly 2 square centimeters per second for the length of time it is not attached to a shadow. Should a specimen be stranded out in the open long enough, it will eventually decrease to nothing, at which point it can be considered deceased. Top land speed has been observed at approximately 1 meter per second when at maximum size. 538 has shown itself to be capable of slipping through cracks greater than 3 millimeters in height. spaces less than this distance appear impassable. While generally benign, it can and will attack its host if frightened. Frightening 538 generally involves a rapid movement by its host, at which point it will bite the organism's shadow before attempting to flee. Bite must occur on bare skin to cause effects. Clothing material consisting of cotton or anything sturdier will provide sufficient protection. Upon being bitten, an individual will go through 5 stages within the space of an hour. Note that bitten individuals may attempt to hide their condition, therefore any individual exhibiting the following symptoms must be contained immediately. Stage 1. Upon agitation, 538 will bite the shadow of its aggressor. Subject will report pain in relative area bitten on shadow, however no puncture wound will appear in this location. They will become quickly irritable, snapping at those around him. Stage 2. 10 to 15 minutes after being bitten, they will begin perspiring heavily but report feeling cold. Skin will become red and warm to the touch. About half an hour after being bitten, they will become violent and aggressive, attempting to start conflict with those around him. Speech will be slurred and motor skills may be impaired. Will resort to violence, often attacking those closest. At stage 4, about 40 to 45 minutes after being bitten, their skin color will turn pale and paste-colored, and their core temperature will drop between 5 and 8 degrees Celsius. They will be apologetic to those around them and may cite that he was not feeling well. Subject will attempt to excuse himself and retreat to a darker area. About 55 to 60 minutes after being bitten, they will data expunge, resulting fluid will be completely translucent and harmless. Their shadow will have at this point completely disintegrate into smaller specimens of 538, approximately 4 square centimeters in area, and for the lack of a better term, should be considered its offspring. There is currently no cure for being bitten by 538. Death has shown to be effective at halting advancement of the condition, but rather skips the process directly to stage 5. Addendum A. As a result of incident I-538A, no fewer than 2 security personnel equipped with 2 250-watt flashlights are to be sent in to accompany a doctor examining Class D. Might as well check out that incident report. Blank, 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 site, blank, sector, blank, containment chamber 538. Dr. Blank enters the containment chamber for 538 for a routine check of disposable 7821, equipped with a standard issue fully sealed hazardous materials suit. 2 minutes and 23 seconds into the examination, attack by the Chaos Insurgency cuts power to sectors blank through blank. As per protocol, the chamber completely sealed and locked, trapping the doctor inside with 538. The power remains cut off for an additional 23 minutes until backup generators are powered up and patched into the power grid. As per protocol, power was not routed to 538's containment cell, but rather to sector blank containing redacted at the time. Power subsequently routed through to the next highest level priority containment cells. As 538 was sufficiently contained at the time, it was deemed minimum priority. No major containment breaches were reported, attack repelled quickly and with minimum casualties. Site engineers worked to restore power. 18 hours after the Chaos Insurgency attack, power finally reaches 538 containment cell. A sobbing Dr. Blank is escorted from the chamber, claiming he could feel them crawling all over him. Doctor undergoes psychological therapy for his newfound arachnophobia. Containment protocol updated. Doctor was reassigned. Dang. I mean, I guess if they left him in a dark room for 18 hours with spiders made of darkness, that whole room pretty much was nothing but those spiders. Now it's time for the perfect distraction. What the hell is that? Well, it's Euclid. 539 is to be kept in a padded case to remain locked at all times, unless a supervisor with a minimum security level, clearance level of 2 is present to observe, and only during potential testing of its phenomenon. Physical contact with 539 is forbidden unless approved testing is being conducted. Description. It is a thin, round disc composed of an undetermined material. While there appears to be corrosion around the edges, testing has determined that the marks are not the result of oxidation. When thrown, an event will occur in the immediate vicinity that will draw attention away from its thrower. These distractions have no observable pattern of any sort. However, it has been determined that the distraction will be more overwhelming in proportion to the difficulty of removing attention from the user. Due to the unpredictable nature of its effect, testers are currently advised to throw it as far as possible from themselves. Test 1. Security personnel ordered to line up all with clear lines of sight on tester, with instructions not to break eye contact with tester under any circumstances. When the disc was thrown, the security personnel experienced a sudden wardrobe existence failure, causing all of them to lose eye contact, with the tester being more concerned with the loss of clothing and the issue of the climate being rather uncomfortable to a new security guard. So that sounds like since they were all directed to stare at the person when the disc was thrown, their clothes disappeared. Interesting. Test 2. Tester was dressed in bright and eye-catching clothing for this test. Tester was alone with security personnel in an empty office. Security personnel ordered to maintain constant eye contact with Tester. When the disc was thrown, the entire building's fire alarm triggered and could not be turned off until the disc was retrieved and the computer security system reset. Test 3. Disposable dude given instructions to attract the attention of the local authorities, then make use of the SCP. Personnel chased by police after smashing in a law cruiser's window. When thrown, a large animal of the species Carcharhinus luacus, bull shark, appeared in the way of the pursuing police cars, which were forced to stop and investigate. After the disposable dude was debriefed, both the shark and the SP were retrieved by field agents. It's worth noting that the police officers involved have remained firmly silent to their superiors about the incident. Test 4. This test was unauthorized and disciplinary action of varying degrees of severity has been taken with the parties involved. As a prank, a group of researchers decided to see if they could distract Dr. Blank, who's notorious for becoming very involved in his work. When thrown, a pack of at least 10 Varanus Komodo dragons burst from the ceiling vent and proceeded to chase the doctor out of his lab. The reptiles proceeded to run unchecked throughout the facility until the disc was picked up, after which they were impossible to locate and had apparently left the premises. This test may indicate that use of animals is the predominant method of distraction. Look, I appreciate a good laugh as much as anyone, but perhaps this could have ended better if the research staff had gotten permission? Furthermore, I find it highly likely that the method of distraction will involve animals, given the way they almost always attract the attention of humans. Dr. Blank. Test 5. Test to determine objects' effectiveness on proxy observers. Testing personnel set up an observation camera linked to a computer monitor in a different building. The computer would both record and display the video feed to observers. Camera was focused on the test subject and the remaining personnel moved to the monitoring computer. When the disc was thrown, the computer suffered a fatal error caused by the deletion of the hardware drivers needed to use the camera feed. Recorded video was corrupt and beyond recovery. Okay, so that one sounds festive instead of terrifying. And then that brings us to the Tannenbaums. Will it be Christmassy? It's safe. Will it be Christmassy? I don't even actually know what a Tannenbaum is. I just think, oh Tannenbaum, and I don't even think that's actually the fucking song. So, all instances of SCP-540 are to be handled and stored according to standard protocols for similar non-anomalous live munitions, with the exception that all locations housing 540 are to be equipped with a secondary overhead sprinkler system capable of dousing any given room with herbicidal compound H540-IB9-4LM to a depth of 10 centimeters in less than 90 seconds. All armories that contain 540 are to be located a minimum of 15 meters below ground, with monitoring and testing facilities located above ground as part of Site 74A. A secondary site, designated B, is located 117 kilometers away and is to maintain a fleet of firefighting aircraft, including no fewer than 10 air tankers. In the event of a partial or full containment breach of 540 affecting more than 0.5 kilometers squared of above ground land, this fleet is to be loaded with a variety of defoliants and herbicides, including Agent Orange and solutions of sodium chlorate, and proceed to inundate all areas affected by 540. So, SCP-540 denotes a collection of Soviet-era explosive ordnance of various makes. All instances can be detonated in the same manner as non-anomalous examples, and explode with a similar yield and blast effect. However, approximately 35 to 37 seconds following the detonation, a massive plant life will rapidly grow to cover the majority of the damaged area. All testing to date has resulted in plant life covering a minimum of 90% of damaged areas. The initial growth rate of the plant life is positively correlated to the yield of the originating explosive, but returns to normal for the plant species after approximately 90 seconds. There are currently blank instances of 540 in Foundation possession and an unknown number outside of Foundation control. 540 was discovered in an abandoned munitions depot near Blank, Ukraine on Blank 1999, following investigation of reports of an unusual amount of non-native plant life appearing in the surrounding areas within a short period of time. At time of discovery, the depot had suffered significant looting, with only one portion of the armory undisturbed. Initial testing of munitions recovered from the depot indicate that only approximately 30% of munitions were actually instances of 540. However, instances of 540 are indistinguishable from non-anomalous ordnance, and were randomly dispersed amongst the non-anomalous munitions found in the originating depot. As such, all munitions recovered have been designated 540 as a precaution. Instances in containment range from hand grenades to a single nuclear device resembling a modified version of the Star Bomber, with an estimated minimum yield of 75 megatons. Based on current analysis, it is predicted that should this nuclear device possess anomalous properties, its detonation will result in a GK-class hostile greenhouse scenario over a minimum of 1/3 of habitable land worldwide. Attempts to disassemble low-yield instances of 540 for now have resulted in premature detonation and resulted plant life in approximately 50% of all such attempts. Instances that were successfully disassembled, then reassembled and detonated did not display any anomalous properties. Testing log excerpts. Ordnance tested, RGO hand grenade. 3.1 meters squared of dandelions, Taraxacum fichinal, and full bloom. PFM-1 landmine buried. 12.8 meters squared of sawtooth sedge, averaging 2.2 meters in height. 9K 1152 Metis M anti-tank missile. A single black oak tree, height 17 meters, diameter 0.96 meters. OTR-23 Oka 9M714K tactical ballistic missile, detonated without launch. Forest of Douglas fir covering 19.3 HA, or 193,000 meters squared. Huh. That sounds dangerous, but at the same time would be really good for fixing all the deforestation that's been happening. So, that about does it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next one, in a couple of hours, we'll be checking out the Living Thoracic System, Ershirug Noise, the New Voice, and the Liquid Life Totenkinder. So, this has been Anachi Sasuke. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.